7, 6. Hey, everybody. Good morning. It is Dr. Ruby Says. You know, I just happened to look up from my desk and look at the calendar in front of me. And what I realized is that today is the last Friday in October. So, do you all know what that means? It means that we have exactly 2 more months until this year is over. And one of the things that I like to do at the end of the year, usually in November and December, number one, because they can be very busy seasons. And that's why I choose 2 months instead of just 1 month or a week or a day. But one of the things that I really, really like to do is spend some time evaluating my year. At the beginning of the year, a lot of times people set goals, they set resolutions, and I do that in air quotes because, resolutions have kind of taken on a negative connotation, but they're not necessarily negative if they're channeled in the right way. And so, what I want to talk a little bit about today is how to finish this year strong. I started these lives earlier in the year, but I also started a weekly newsletter back in the end of February. I think the first one was published February 27th. And when my team and I talked about what our year was going to look like, we overwhelmingly decided that this year would be the year that we talk about self care. We normalize taking care of ourselves. And one of the analogies that I have used for so many years is the one that they use on the airplane when they give you all of the instructions about where the exits are on the plane, where the restrooms are on the plane, in the event of an emergency, and all of those other warnings or safety features they offer. The one most important one that I have found, because I've flown many, many times, but the one that I always pay attention to, no matter how I have heard these announcements over and over and over again, the one that I always pay attention to is the one that says, in the event of an emergency, if the air cabin pressure drops, a mask will drop from the ceiling. Take that mask, put it on yourself first before you try to assist the child or the person or anyone else sitting next to you. Well, you know what? That's what self care is all about. Self care is about making sure that you put the mask on yourself before you put it on anyone else. And so the first quarter or the first part of the year, I did all of my newsletters starting with February 27th through the end of April. They were all about self care. Now, shameless plug, you can find all of these newsletters on my website, on the archive page to my on my website at www.rubyepow.com. I kept it simple for you. It's just my name. Um, it's going across the bottom of my screen as well. Somebody said they loving my hair. I can't see who it is. Thank you. My running joke is my beautician had a baby. My daughter is my beautician, so I had to kind of make it work myself. But thank you for loving my hair. That gave me a little bit more confidence this morning. Anyway, I digress. It's all about self-care, right? The second part of our self-care series that went from May to the end of July was called Let It Go. Let it go. Whatever the it was or whatever the it is, let it go. Release it. Those old clothes, those old papers. My dad, who's now 86 years old, taught me something some years ago, and it just blew my mind. He saw that I had been keeping all of my canceled check stubs. Now, mind you, this was probably 10 years ago. And he said, "Why are you keeping those?" I said, "Well, you're supposed to keep them for 7 years." He said, "I have a motto. Anything that I can replace within 7 days, I get rid of it." My then 76-year-old dad taught me something about technology. He said, yeah, you can go into your bank and you can request a copy of it. I was like, oh my God, let it go, let it go. So what did I do? I spent the next 2 hours shredding canceled checks. Let it go. You don't need it. Let go of the stress. Let go of the negative mindsets. Let go of the toxic relationships. I was just in a clubhouse room earlier this morning that just talked about relationships. And one of the things that I said was I had to normalize letting go of toxic relationships because I'm a person that loves hard, love deep. I try to keep everybody in my circle, but some people are not intended to stay in your circle. And so I had to normalize for myself and my own well being, letting go of toxic relationships. And so our series for August through October talked about what was our series for August? Streamlining. Oh my goodness, how could I forget that? Streamlining. It's all about self care. So we talked about priority management. We talked about the gift of time. We talked about focusing on what matters. We talked about maximization. We talked about organized chaos. Now, don't you know that you can have a little chaos in your life and in your place and still be organized? I talked about on one of my lives the story about my former supervisor, and he was the person that I learned a lot of my leadership strategies from. But you would walk into his office and he would have all of these stacks of paper. And for the average person, it was like, oh my goodness, what is all of this? But if you asked him, Greg, where is whatever it is that you needed or whatever it is that you came there for, he would go, oh, right here. He could pick it up and go right to the stack where it was, because what looked like chaos to me was organized to him. And so I loved it. And so I developed the idea of you can have organized chaos. Be effortless. Create those systems in your life so that whatever you do could be effortless. So you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. The internet is amazing for that. Google is made amazing for that. Or as our one of our pastors say, Tim Ross, he say, "Oh Google, call on Google. Whatever it is that you want to know, Google has an answer for you." Now, of course, you have to vet some of the information because not everything that you find on the internet is good or valid information. But you can find just about anything you need on the internet. Be flexible. One of our newsletters was about flexibility. And so I used to be, it takes my brother Anthony Perquette to talk about when he first met me, probably 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. He said, you were just so rigid. Now, I thought I was focused. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I thought I was just focused, but he said, you were so rigid. Things were a certain way, and that's the only way it was. I'm thankful that I've softened up some. Life and healing, let me say that, have taught me to loosen up some and to be a lot more flexible. And that allowed me to give grace. That allowed me to be able to be gracious to people and to meet people right where they are. That's so important in streamlining. And then a couple of weeks ago, I talked about the five. They actually, that newsletter was birthed out of a workshop that I did for an organization, and it was called 5 Business Hacks to Greater Self-Care. And so I modified that a little bit to talk about how any type of business hacks, they should really be called life hacks, because anytime you take the opportunity to be flexible, to streamline, and to do all of those things that make your life less stressful and a lot easier, it helps you to streamline and it helps with your self-care. So there's a saying, why work harder when you can work smarter? I love it. One of our Facebook users said, I used to be super focused. I'm going to start saying that because, I really did think I was just being focused. I was very, I'm an analytical person. I am not the artist. The rest of my family are artists. I'm the analytical person. I'm the one that can tell you about the details. I'm the one that can cross every T and dot every I, and, effortlessly. And so I thought I was being super focused. But in other people's world, my thinking that I was being super focused was being super rigid, which was causing some stress for other people who had to relate to me. I'm so glad that he told me that I was rigid, because I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be helpful to people like I do now. When I discovered my passion, when my passion and my purpose had a front end collision, and I realized that I would do what I do right now for the rest of my life, whether I get paid or not, my life changed. And that's what your passion and your purpose should do. And so last week, or earlier this week, our newsletter was about bridging the gap and how streamlining creates solution. And again, you can find all of these newsletters on my website, on the archive page. The rest of them from September and October will be updated today. So if you didn't get them, you'll be able to get them there. But do yourself a solid. Go ahead and subscribe to that newsletter. If you are enjoying these lives, go ahead, like and comment, like, and share. I think that's how that goes. I'm not the social media guru, but like, share, and comment. Share it with other people. If any of the information that I've ever shared with you was helpful to you, there may be somebody else that it may be helpful to at all. And so, as I go into this next phase of November and December of doing my annual evaluation, what things went well in my life? Did I take good care of myself? Did I streamline? Did I let some things go? I'm going to spend the next couple of months just making sure that not only do I finish 2022 strong, but I start 2023 even stronger, starting with a new plan, not a resolution, but a new plan, a plan that's birthed out of goals that I have set. The only way you can reach your goals is if you set a goal, and you have to be crystal clear about what it is that your goal is. Um, Years ago, I started out on a journey to get a doctorate degree. I started that journey in 2003. Now I could do a whole hour's live about my educational journeys, because I'm a lover of all things educational. But in 2003, I set out on the journey to get a doctorate degree. I started out at Northern Illinois University in one program. And mind you, I had just gotten married, had a lot of new great things going on in my life. Continued that until I was 9 months pregnant with my 18-year-old. I was sitting in a class the day before my due date, taking a final in my doctorate degree. Yeah, I know, it was crazy. Well, fast forward 3.5 years later, I had two more kids. So, yes, I had three children in 4 years, working on a doctorate, working full time for the state of Illinois in a middle management position, very stressful, as in ministry, as well as a lot of other things that I was doing. But what did that teach me? It taught me that I had to be organized and I had to set some goals. And so it took me until 2015 to finish that doctorate degree, because of course I had babies, and I started the doctorate degree that I ultimately finished in 2015. I started that in 2008 when my almost 15-year-old was an arm baby. He was 3 months old. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew I had a goal and I wanted to complete that goal. So let me just say this. No matter what that goal is, no matter how long it takes, no matter how many tears you have to cry, no matter how many times you want to give up, don't stop. Baby steps count. There were times when I had to just baby step through. There were times when I had to pick my foot up and put it in front of the other because it didn't want to go. But I refused to stop. And in all, it took me about 12 years from start to finish, starts and stops, to actually get that doctorate degree. But I did it. I have friends now who have known me for many, many years that refuse to call me anything but Dr. Ruby or Dr. Powell. I don't require that. And I use it when it's educationally or professionally appropriate. But why do I say that? The one thing that they said that resonated with me and allowed me to get comfortable with using that title was the fact that you earned it. I was there when you were crying. I was there when you worked hard. I was there when you wanted to give up. I was there when all of those things, every time I wanted to cave in and quit. And so they tell me, I'm not going to just call you Ruby. I don't care if I've known you 35 years. You deserve to be called Dr. Ruby or Dr. Powell. And I'm learning to embrace that. And so I just wanted to just pop in here today very quickly and just kind of speak from my heart about why I chose the series of self-care for 2022 and why I started the year with self-care and why I'm ending the year with self-care. Because if I have any message, I want to share that message with not just you that listen to my lives, not just you that read my newsletters, not just you that I coach, counsel, or consult with. I want to share the message of putting the mask on yourself first before you try to help someone else. I want to share that worldwide. Thank you, Pastor Terry. I love you too. But that's my live for today. Just speaking clearly from my heart about how you should take care of yourself. And I'm Dr. Ruby. If you'd like a free 30-minute consultation or discovery call, feel free to go to my website at www.rubyepow.com. Feel free to subscribe to my newsletter. Shout out. I don't do it often enough. I would love to do it at every live, but shout out to my team. And I'm going to call them by name today. Nathan Powell, who's my engineer and my media director. Shout out to LaSteiner Simpson, who is my creative strategist. Shout out to Adia Sams, who just had a baby 3 weeks ago. Shout out to her, who's my one of my administrative assistants. Shout out to Imani Alloway, who helps me. This is my team, guys. They come alongside of me and they say, what do we need to do to help make what you're trying to do easier? So shout out to my team today. I know I'm a little over time. I usually try to go 15 minutes or less, but I just want to say I love you all. I appreciate you all. And 2 weeks from now, I'll see you again with Dr. Ruby Live.